My sister slept with my fiancé and got pregnant. Days later she announced their wedding, but when they tried to move into their newly purchased house, a surprise awaited them that made them regret what they did to me. I always thought betrayal would feel like a sudden punch to the gut. Instead it crept slowly, wrapping around my throat like a silk scarf until I couldn't breathe. The day I caught them together, I wasn't even supposed to be home. IRI had called and I was supposed to be picking out floral arrangements for my wedding, but a migraine had forced me to reschedule. I returned to find my sister Sophia's car in our driveway, odd, since she should have been at work. The front door was ajar. I heard giggling from upstairs, my bedroom. My feet felt heavy as I climbed each step, my heart already knowing what my mind refused to accept. Jamie, Sophia's voice drifted through the crack in the door. We should tell her soon. I know, sweetheart. After the wedding, okay? We'll figure it out. My hand trembled as I pushed the door open. There they were, my fiancé and my sister, tangled in my sheets, the same sheets Jamie and I had picked out together at Bed Bath & Beyond last month. Sophie scrambled to cover herself, but Jamie just sat there, paralyzed. Oh God, this isn't. We were going to. Going to what? My voice sounded strange, unnervingly calm. Wait until after the wedding to tell me you've been sleeping with my fiancé? Jamie finally found his voice. Abby, please, we didn't want this to happen. It just happened. I laughed. I actually laughed. How long? Sophie started to cry. 3 months. And I'm pregnant. The room spun. 3 months. While I'd been planning our wedding, picking out china patterns and writing my vows, they'd been planning their own future. Out, I whispered. When neither of them moved, I grabbed Jamie's clothes off the floor and threw them at him. Get out. They dressed quickly, Sophie sobbing the entire time. I stood in the doorway blocking their exit. The ring, Jamie. He blinked. What? The engagement ring. Give it back. He slid it off my finger, his touch making my skin crawl. As they shuffled past me, Sophia tried to grab my arm. Abby, please, we need to talk about this. I jerked away. Don't touch me. Ever again. The next few days passed in a blur. My mother called constantly, leaving increasingly frustrated voicemails. Abby, you need to come home. Sophie's devastated. She needs her sister right now. I finally answered on the 4th day. Needs me? Are you serious? These things happen. Sophie and Jamie are in love. Real love. Abby. My voice cracked. Just have a family dinner tonight, she continued as if I hadn't spoken. Everyone will be there. We need to discuss the situation like adults. I showed up, against my better judgment. The dining room felt suffocating. Sophie and Jamie sat together, my mother hovering anxiously, my father staring fixedly at his plate. We're getting married next month, Sophie announced, her hand protectively over her stomach. A small ceremony. Nothing fancy. My mother beamed. Isn't it wonderful? You'll be an aunt, Abby. I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. Wonderful? My sister sleeps with my fiancé, gets pregnant, and that's wonderful. Now, Abby, my father finally spoke. What's done is done. We need to move forward as a family. A family. I grabbed my purse. You want to know what family does? Family protects each other. Family doesn't steal your happiness and expect you to celebrate their betrayal. Sophie started crying again. She'd always been good at that. Please, Abby. I love him. We love each other. I looked at all of them. My sister's tears, Jamie's guilty face, my parents' pleading eyes. In that moment, something inside me hardened. They wanted me to forgive and forget, to play the role of understanding sister and daughter. Instead, I walked to the door, pausing only to say, "Congratulations on your perfect little family. I hope you're all very happy together." As I drove away, my phone buzzed with messages I wouldn't read. They thought this was the end. Poor Abby running away to lick her wounds. But they were wrong. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. I pulled into my best friend Eric's driveway, my hand steady on the wheel for the first time in days. He opened the door before I could knock, took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. "I need your help," I whispered against his shoulder. "Anything. I want to buy a house." I pulled back to meet his confused gaze. Their dream house. Specifically. I knew exactly how to do it. 6 months can change everything. I was sitting in Craig's office, watching him review the quarterly reports I'd prepared. My mentor's eyebrows arched higher with each page. "Abi, these numbers are exceptional." He set the papers down. "You've doubled your client portfolio since spring." I smiled, thinking of the sleepless nights and endless cups of coffee that had gotten me here. "Thanks. I've been focused." Focused is an understatement. "The board has noticed. There's talk of a promotion." My phone buzzed. Another ignored message from Sophie. I silenced it without looking. "Speaking of focus," Craig leaned forward. "How's the house hunting going?" "Actually, I'm closing on a property next week." I tried to keep my voice neutral. "The Victorian on Maple Grove." He whistled. "That's a sizable purchase for a first-time buyer." "Are you sure about this?" After work, I met Eric at our usual coffee shop. He was already there, laptop open, real estate documents spread across the table. "The sellers accepted your offer," he said without preamble. "But there's something else. Look at this." He swiveled his laptop toward me. On the screen was Sophie's social media post. "Can't wait to start our new chapter. Dream house and baby on the way." Below was a picture of her and Jamie standing in front of the same Victorian I was about to own. "They don't know," I said, sipping my coffee. "They think they're getting it." Eric ran a hand through his hair. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" "They're meeting with the realtor tomorrow," I interrupted, "to make their offer. An offer they can't afford, by the way. I've seen Jamie's finances." "How?" "Denise in accounting owed me a favor." Eric closed his laptop. "You've thought this through, right?" "Almost." I pulled out my phone, showing him the invitation I just received. Sophie was throwing a housewarming party next month for a house she didn't yet own. My phone rang. My mother this time. I declined the call. "They're going to hate you for this," Eric said quietly. "They already do. They're just pretending they don't." The next week passed in a whirlwind of signatures and legal documents. I sat in my lawyer's office, pen hovering over the last paper. "Once you sign," she said, "the house is yours. All renovations and alterations will be at your discretion." I signed. Leaving, I ran into Denise from work. "Hey, I was just heading to your office. Did you hear about Sophie and Jamie?" My stomach clenched. "What about them?" "Their loan application got denied. They're devastated. Sophie's been crying all over Facebook about losing her dream house." I forced a sympathetic wince. "That's terrible." "I know. And with the baby coming." Denise lowered her voice. "Your mother called the office looking for you. Said Sophie really needs her sister right now." "I'm sure she does." Back at my desk, I opened my email to find the contractor's estimate for the renovations. The amount would barely make a dent in my savings. Unlike Sophie and Jamie, I'd been smart with my money. My phone lit up with a message from Eliana. "Family dinner tonight. Please come." "Are they announcing the baby's sex?" I replied. "Can't. Working late." "You can't avoid them forever," she retorted. "Watch me." That night I stood in front of my new house. My house. The porch needed fixing, the paint was peeling, but it was mine. All mine. Eric pulled up in his car. "Figured I'd find you here." Just picturing the possibilities. I turned to him. "Want to see the inside?" We walked through empty rooms that echoed with our footsteps. Sophie and Jamie had planned their entire future here. The nursery upstairs, the kitchen remodel, the garden parties. "When are you going to tell them?" Eric asked. "Soon." I walked to the bay window, the one Sophie had raved about on social media. "They're having a girl, you know. They found out today." "Abi?" I pressed my hand against the cool glass. "Don't make me feel guilty about this." They didn't feel guilty about what they did to me. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. It was the invitation to Sophie's housewarming party, sent to the entire family group chat. "Join us to celebrate our new home. We can't wait to share this special moment with everyone we love." Eek. Eric read over my shoulder. "She still doesn't know?" "Nope." I smiled, remembering the renovation timeline I just approved. "But she will. Very soon." I took one last look at what would have been their dream house. In 30 days, the contractors would arrive. In 31 days, Sophie and Jamie would realize exactly what they'd lost. And I would be there to watch it all unfold. You're different lately, Denise said, studying me during lunch. Quieter. Almost scarily quiet. I stirred my salad, watching the lettuce leaves swirl like tiny green boats. Just focused on work. Please. You're up to something. She leaned closer. Spill it. Before I could respond, Sophie walked into the restaurant, her pregnant belly now obvious under her flowy dress. I ducked behind my menu, but it was too late. Abby. She waddled over, Jamie trailing behind her. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I've been busy. I kept my voice light, professional. The restaurant was full of my colleagues. Congratulations on the sex reveal. You'd know more if you came to family dinners. Sophie pulled up a chair, uninvited. We miss you. Jamie stood awkwardly beside her. Hi, Abby. I ignored him, gathering my things. Sorry, I have a meeting. Wait. Sophie grabbed my arm. The housewarming party. You're coming, right? We found another house. Even better than the Victorian. Everything happens for a reason, you know? I met her eyes. Really? Like Jamie and me. Sometimes the universe knows better than us. Denise choked on her water. The universe. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Right. Well, I wouldn't miss your housewarming for the world. Outside, Denise caught up with me. Okay, what was that? You looked like you were about to either cry or commit murder. Neither. I checked my phone. An email from the contractors confirming next week's start date. I'm just giving the universe a little nudge. Back at the office, Eric was waiting by my desk. Emergency best friend meeting. He dragged me to the stairwell, our usual spot for private conversations. I just overheard Jamie on the phone. He's in trouble, Abby. Big trouble. What kind of trouble? Gambling debts. He's been betting on sports games, losing big. That's why they couldn't get the loan for the house. I leaned against the wall. Does Sophie know? Nope. He's telling everyone they picked a different house because it's better for the baby. Eric ran a hand through his hair. This changes things, right? Changes what? My plan? I mean, they're already suffering. Maybe that's enough. I thought of my mother's voicemails, all about how Sophie needed support, how blessed they were, how I needed to move on. Of Jamie's hand on my sister's stomach at the restaurant, the same hand that used to hold mine. No, I said. It's not enough. That night, I drove past their current apartment. The lights were on, shadows moving behind the curtains. They looked happy, normal, like they hadn't destroyed another person's life to build their own. My phone rang. Eliana. Before you say no, she said when I answered. Hear me out. Family brunch on Sunday. Just you and me. And okay, yes, Sophie and your mother will be there. But me too, acting as mediator. Please. I hate being caught in the middle. I sighed. Fine. 1 hour. Sunday arrived too quickly. I walked into the cafe and found Sophie already crying. These hormones, she sniffed as I sat down. I'm so glad you came. My mother beamed. See? This is what family does. We come together. Eliana looked at me and mouthed, sorry. Sophie dabbed at her eyes. The new house is perfect. The owners accepted our offer right away. I mean, it just felt like it was meant to be. When are you moving in? I asked, knowing the answer. 3 weeks. Just in time to set up the nursery before I get too big. She pulled out her phone. Want to see pictures? The previous owners are doing some renovations before we move in. I stared at the pictures. My house. My renovations. It's gorgeous. We're thinking of naming her Abby, Sophie said suddenly. After you. To show there's no hard feelings. The cafe went silent. Even my mother looked uncomfortable. No, I said quietly. You don't get to do that. You don't get to steal my life, and then name your baby after me like it makes everything okay. Sophie's lower lip trembled. I thought you'd be honored. Honored. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. You want to honor me? Try not sleeping with my fiancé next time. Abby, my mother hissed. People are staring. Let them stare. I grabbed my purse. I'm done pretending everything is okay. Eliana followed me outside. That was intense. It's about to get more intense. I showed her the contractor's schedule on my phone. They start tomorrow. The renovation Sophie thinks the sellers are doing. Exactly. She studied me for a long moment. You know this isn't going to make you feel better, right? Maybe not. I looked through the window as Sophie cried on our mother's shoulder. But it will make them feel worse. And right now, that's all that matters. Eliana's birthday party felt like walking through a minefield. The backyard was packed with familiar faces, all pretending not to stare as I weaved through the crowd. Eric squeezed my hand reassuringly. We can leave whenever you want, he whispered. Not yet. I spotted Jamie by the drinks table, checking his phone with a worried expression. This was getting interesting. Sophie waved from her seat of honor, surrounded by gift bags overflowing with baby items. Typical of her, to hijack someone else's birthday party. Abi, come feel the baby kick. I'm good. I grabbed a glass of wine, watching Jamie slip away to make another hushed phone call. Eliana appeared beside me. He's been doing that all afternoon. Sophie thinks he's dealing with work stuff. Bookie stuff more likely, I muttered. What? Nothing. I forced a smile as my mother approached. Abi, darling. Sophie's about to open presents. Come sit with us. Actually, I raised my voice slightly. I'd love to hear more about the house, Sophie. The renovations must be almost done. Sophie brightened. Oh my God, yes. The contractors have been amazing. They're painting the nursery this gorgeous shade of lush. Contractors. Jamie interrupted, returning from his call. His face had gone pale. What contractors? The ones doing the renovations before we move in. Sophie frowned. You said the sellers were fixing everything up. Jamie tugged at his shirt collar. Right. Right, of course. I sipped my wine, watching him squirm. He hadn't fixed anything. He couldn't have. He didn't own the house. I wondered how long he could keep up the lie. Show everyone the pictures of the nursery, Sophie urged. Jamie's phone rang again. Sorry, I have to dash. I followed him, rounding the corner of the house, staying close enough to hear. I know I'm behind on the payment, he hissed into the phone. The house fell through, okay? But I've got another plan. No, please just give me 2 more weeks. Trouble. I stepped into view. He jumped, ending the call. Jesus, Abi. Were you spying on me? Karma's funny, isn't it? I leaned against the wall. 1 minute you're on top of the world, the next. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I smiled. Just thinking about how quickly things can change. Houses slip away. Debts pile up. His eyes narrowed. What do you know? I know Sophie would be devastated to learn about your gambling. Almost as devastated as I was when. There you are. Sophie rounded the corner, waddling over. What are you two talking about? The house, I said sweetly. Jamie was just telling me about all the special features. The bay window, the antique fireplace, the original hardwood floors. Isn't it perfect? Sophie beamed. We're so lucky. The master bedroom has this incredible crown molding. They're replacing it. I interrupted. Jamie's head snapped up. What? But didn't you know? The contractors are replacing all the crown molding. And the hardwood floors. And that antique fireplace? Gone. By Thursday. Sophie's face fell. But we chose that house for those features. You said nothing would be changed. She shot Jamie a panicked look. There must be some mistake. No mistake. I pulled out my phone, showing them the latest contractor photos. See? They're making good progress. But why would the sellers? Sophie's voice trailed off as she studied the pictures. Wait. That's not. Jamie, that's not our house. Of course it is, he said quickly. It's just the angle. Look at the address in the background. He zoomed in on a photo. That's the Victorian we lost. Why do you have renovation pictures of a house we don't own? I watched the color drain from Jamie's face as his house of cards began to crumble. Someone else bought it, he stammered. The loan, we couldn't. Then why have you been acting like we're moving in? Sophie's voice rose. Why are there contractors? Why did you let me plan a housewarming party? Other guests were starting to stare. My mother hurried over. What's going on? I'd like to know that too, Sophie said, tears streaming down her face. Jamie opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and walked quickly toward his car. Jamie. Sophie tried to follow but stumbled. My mother caught her arm. What did you tell him? my mother demanded. I shrugged. Just the truth. For once. Sophie sank into a nearby chair, one hand on her stomach. I don't understand. We picked out paint colors. We put a down payment on curtains. How could he lie about this? I caught Eric's eye across the patio. He gave a slight nod, my cue to leave before the real storm hit. Happy birthday, Eliana, I called, heading for the gate. Thanks for having me. Behind me, I could hear Sophie's sobs, my mother's soothing murmurs, and the rising whispers of gossip. Phase 1 was complete. Now for the real surprise. The contractor's boots echoed through the empty house as he showed me the progress. We've gutted the master bedroom and nursery as requested. The new fixtures arrive tomorrow. I ran my hand along the exposed beams. All that remained of Sophie's dream nursery. Perfect. And the time frame. We'll be finished 2 days before their supposed move-in date. He checked his clipboard. Though I still don't understand why we're ripping out exactly what they wanted to keep. Sometimes people don't know what they really want, I said, stepping over a pile of antique crown molding. Until it's gone. My phone buzzed. Eliana calling. I answered on speakerphone while examining paint swatches. Sophie's a mess, she said without preamble. Jamie finally confessed about the gambling. He's staying with your parents. How much does he owe? Enough that they're selling their wedding rings. The ones he gave her after, you know? I've selected a deep charcoal for the master bedroom. Sophie hated dark colors. Karma's working overtime. This isn't funny, Abby. She's pregnant and homeless. She's not homeless. She's at mom and dad's, probably telling them none of this is her fault. A crash from upstairs made me jump. The contractor yelled from below. Sorry. Just removing that built-in bookshelf. Where are you? Eliana asked suspiciously. Working late. I hung up before she could ask more questions. The next morning, I arrived at work to find Denise waiting at my desk. You're not going to believe what I just heard. Try me. I've already been embezzling company funds. Small amounts, but it adds up. He thought he could win it back gambling before anyone noticed. I set down my coffee. How much? Enough for jail time. She leaned closer. He's clearing out his desk right now. I walked to the break room, timing it perfectly to refill my mug, as Jamie packed his personal belongings into a cardboard box. Our eyes met across the room. Happy now? He asked quietly. I still don't know you're behind this somehow. The house, the contractors, the audit that caught the missing money. Prove it. His hands tightened around his box. I loved you once, you know. No, I corrected. You loved what I could give you. Stability. Status. A future. Then Sophie offered something more exciting. She needed me. And now. I gestured to his box. Does she still need you? An unemployed gambling addict with possible jail time. Security arrived before he could answer, escorting him out. I watched from my window as he loaded his box into his car, then pulled out my phone to check the latest contractor update. The Victorian was transforming daily. Gone were the antique details Sophie had sighed over, replaced with modern fixtures in stark colors. The garden she'd planned to plant was now a concrete patio. Eric texted. Just saw Jamie being escorted out. You okay? Better than okay, I replied. Coming to see the house later? Someone should witness your descent into supervillainy. That night, Eric toured the renovation with me, shaking his head at each change. You're really applying the scorched earth tactic with this. They wanted their dream house. I showed him the blueprints for the industrial-style kitchen, replacing the farmhouse design Sophie had envisioned. Dreams change. Speaking of change, he pulled out his phone, showing me Sophie's latest social media post. A tearful announcement about postponing the housewarming due to unforeseen circumstances. Unforeseen, I scoffed. She should have seen it coming the minute she decided to sleep with my fiancé. And what about your parents? They're caught in the crossfire. I remembered my mother's voicemails, all about supporting Sophie, understanding Sophie, forgiving Sophie. They'd chosen their side. My phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. It was Jamie. Please. She's pregnant. Just tell me who bought the house. We can work something out. Still getting calls from your ex? Eric looked over my shoulder. Not for long. I blocked the number, then opened my email to approve the final renovation changes. You know, Eric said carefully, there's still time to stop this. Sell the house. Keep the profit. Start over somewhere else. I walked to the bay window, the last original feature remaining. Tomorrow it would be replaced with modern floor-to-ceiling glass. They took everything from me, I said quietly. My fatira, my family, my trust. Now I'm taking something back. And then when the house is finished and they're destroyed, what then? Before I could answer, headlights swept across the window. A familiar car pulled into the driveway. Eric moved to my side. Sophie. Sophie stepped out of her car, staring at the house, my house, with tears streaming down her face. Showtime, I whispered, heading for the door. What are you doing here? I called from the porch, making Sophie jump. Abi. She squinted in the darkness. Why are you at our house? Your house. The porch light flicked on. That's interesting. Show me the deed. Sophie's hand went protectively to her belly, her default move lately. The sellers never accepted your offer, I finished. Because they'd already sold it to someone else. Understanding dawned slowly on her face. No. You? I pulled out my keys, dangling them in the moonlight. Want a tour? She followed me inside, gasping at each renovation. The exposed brick she'd loved was now covered in sleek white paint. The antique staircase had been replaced with modern floating steps. You're destroying it, she whispered. I'm making it mine. Eric lingered behind us, watching. We circled each other like wary cats. Sophie's eyes were red-rimmed, her designer dress wrinkled. Why? Her voice cracked. To hurt me. Why did you sleep with my fiancé? I countered. To hurt you. I loved him. I still love him even after she choked back a sob. You got him fired too. Jamie got himself fired. Just like he got himself into gambling debt. He was trying to buy this house for us. She gestured around the gutted rooms. For our family. Your family. I laughed. You mean the family you built on the ruins of mine? Sophie sank onto a dusty contractor's stool. I never meant to fall in love with him. But you did. And instead of walking away, you took it all. My fiancé, my future, our parents' support. You took it all with a smile, and then expected me to celebrate your happiness. Mom and Dad still love you. They're just tolerating you. They love you. The pregnant daughter, the victim, the one who needs protecting. Eric cleared his throat. Abi. I didn't turn away from Sophie. Want to know the best part? Jamie was planning on selling this house behind your back, to pay off his debts. She shook her head. You're lying. Check his phone. Check his bookie's messages. Ask him about the company money he stole. Sophie's face crumpled. Stop. Stop it already. The perfect life you stole from me. It's falling apart and I get to watch. I didn't steal anything. I reached into my pocket. I bought it. I handed her the eviction notice. Get out. She tried to bolt again, but two men in suits blocked her path. James Fletcher, one said, flashing a badge. We need to discuss some financial discrepancies at your previous place of employment. As they led Jamie away, Sophie crumpled the eviction notice in her fists. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Sophie? Don't name your baby after me. She deserves better than that. The crowd parted as I walked away, whispers following me. I heard my mother calling my name. I heard Sophie's sobs. I heard the engine of the excavator roaring to life. Eric caught up with me on the curb. Well, that was justified. I was going to say intense. He glanced back at the chaos we'd left. Do you feel better? I watched as my family's perfect facade crumbled, just as the house would soon crumble. Sophie being led away by our parents. Jamie in custody. The party guests fleeing the scene. Ask me tomorrow, I said, and walked away from the ruins of both our dreams. Behind me, the excavator began its work. The dust from the demolition had barely settled when Eliana found me sitting on my front porch, watching the sunset behind the partially destroyed Victorian. Everyone's looking for you, she said, sitting beside me. Let them look. She handed me a mug of coffee. Jamie's being held without bail. Sophie's in the hospital. The stress triggered premature contractions. The coffee burned my tongue, but I welcomed the pain. It felt real, anchored me to reality. You know, I said, I used to picture my whole life in this house. Sunday dinners, Christmas mornings, kids running up and down those stairs. And now I'm going to sell it as is. I gestured to the demolished garden, the exposed beams, the chaos I'd created. Let someone else build something new from the rubble. My phone lit up. My mother calling again. This time I answered. Where are you? She demanded. Home. This isn't funny, Abby. Your sister needs you. No, I said quietly. She doesn't need you. And you don't need me either. I hung up as Eric's car pulled into the driveway. He carried a box of my old photos, the ones I'd left at my parents' house. Your mother dropped these off at my place, he said. I think she was hoping to find you there. I pulled out a picture. Sophie and me as little girls in matching Halloween costumes. We used to be inseparable. People change. No, I crumpled the photo. People reveal who they really are. Eliana's phone buzzed. She read the message, then looked at me carefully. Sophie lost the baby. The words hung in the air like the dust from the demolition. I waited to feel satisfaction, victory, something. Instead, I felt hollow. Abby. Eric touched my arm. Talk to us. I wanted them to hurt like I hurt. I stared at the ruined house. But this isn't what I wanted. What did you want, Abby? I don't know anymore. Headlights swept across the lawn as another car approached. Sophie stepped out, pale and small in her hospital gown. You shouldn't be here, Eliana started, but Sophie raised a hand. I need to say something. I stood, facing my sister across the debris-strewn yard. She looked at the destruction around us, then back at me. I deserved this, she said quietly. All of it. I destroyed your life because I was jealous. You had everything. The perfect fiancé, the perfect future. I wanted to prove I could take it all away. Sophie let me finish. She hugged herself. I told myself it was love, that Jamie and I were meant to be. But really, I just wanted to win, to be the sister everyone chose for once. It was always you. No, I shook my head. They needed to take care of me because I was a mess. But you were the strong one, the successful one they were proud of. I looked at the house, really looked at it. The demolished parts, the renovations, the ruins I'd created to make her suffer. I became exactly what they thought I was, I whispered. Bitter, vengeful, cruel. We both did. Sophie wiped her eyes. I lost everything today. Jamie, the baby, our parents' trust. But the worst part is, I lost you a long time ago. The day I decided my jealousy was more important than my sister. Eric and Eliana stepped back, giving us space in the growing darkness. Sophie and I stood among the ruins of both our lives. I can't forgive you, I said finally. I know. But I don't want to hate you anymore either. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? I looked at the excavator, still waiting for tomorrow's demolition. The house that had become a monument to revenge instead of healing. Now, I said, we start over. Separately. Will you ever talk to me again? Maybe. Someday. When it doesn't hurt to look at you. She turned to leave, then stopped. If it's any consolation. I'm sorry. Not because I got caught or because it all fell apart, but because I broke something that can never be fixed. I watched her drive away, then turned to Eric and Eliana. Call the contractor. Tell him to stop the demolition. You're keeping the house? Eric asked. No, I took one last look at the Victorian. The dream house. The instrument of my revenge. My prison of bitterness. I'm going to restore it. Not for Sophie. Not for revenge. But for me. Then I'm selling it and moving somewhere new. Running away? Eliana asked. No, I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. Moving forward. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's rebuilding yourself from the ruins others left behind.